if you're a martial arts dude and you're talking about self-defense and you don't put on a sparring gear, you don't put on helmet, you don't put on, you don't go in the middle of the floor and kick the shit out of each other, and you're not pressure testing and stuff, you're kidding yourself.
Essentially, with any martial art that you take, it comes with a culture, it comes with a history, it comes with, this person's did this and then passed it to this person who passed it to this person. So a lot of people, I guess, would take it as you're like, dishonoring the legacy to say it straight out like that. You're taking things that they have, potentially even embodied for themselves, things that they've been learning for decades. And you're essentially telling them that they wasted their time. So it's like, it's understandable, like, that type of reception, but it's like, it's at the same time, if the thing that you are teaching somebody is not like straightforward applicable, then I mean, it is what it is. I mean, for me personally, I love the cultural aspects behind all the different like arts out there. But there is a point where, and this is something that I've learned in my own growth as a martial artist, that there is a point where, especially if you want to teach somebody, you got to make sure that what you're teaching them can readily be applied against a non-resistant, against a resisting opponent, not a compliant one. And I guess that's, for me, I've seen that's where a lot of people who are learning martial arts, they get caught up in the compliance training. And then when you actually, put it into a system or a situation where you use it against somebody who doesn't do something the same way, it kind of exposes, maybe a hole or something. So it does destroy the ego. I can agree with you on that. But you actually did trigger another, you actually kind of flowed into another question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So when people,
you're in charge, I'm just going to get you in trouble.
I mean, like I said, there's no trouble here, man. We're here to talk about the truth of martial arts, and thank you for being so candid and blunt. We want to be able to hear those things. But one thing that you did, like I said, you did trigger was when people hear the word martial arts, they tend to immediately think combatives. So, and that's with any art. They immediately think that it's automatically like just all of it's applicable. And yes, the arts do have history, like many of the arts that we've seen nowadays, they all have a history of being used in war, being used in some way, shape, or form that has allowed it to, stand the test of time, even in a sports aspect, which a lot of arts have turned to a sports aspect in order to keep the practice going. But I guess in recent years, especially with the advent of social media and online content, I really noticed that, those two terms are not as synonymous as many would believe. So I guess my question is, in your experience, is there a difference between martial arts and true self-defense?
It's a very layered question. Well, first off, I think the context you're bringing up is when you say martial arts, and what you're referring to is that's how martial arts people see it. Okay, people who are actually involved in the culture of martial arts. The average person who's does not see martial arts as combatives. They see it in terms of, okay, kids training. They see it in terms of UFC, maybe because they had to watch it once. They don't see what you're seeing. And that's, I said this many times, is we've done a shit job at marketing martial arts, especially to the adult market. I mean, that was the whole, every Taekwondo school now has a Brazilian component, or every karate school has a Brazilian, because that's supposed to be for adults. Well, when I started karate and judo, I was a kid. Everybody was a freaking adult. And I had to do the same stuff the adults did. There was no playing. So where did it, if you go to Europe, you have a much higher percentage of adults doing martial arts than we do here in North America. So the perception is not what you're thinking. The perception for martial arts outside of our culture, and even to a certain degree within our culture, is John Wick movies, Jason Bourne movies, all this stuff. All the stuff, and how come I can't do what Jason Bourne or John Wick? John Wick takes out 26 people. He's shot, stabbed, and bludgeoned, and he's still going. Okay, I've been shot in my body armor, and I didn't really want to get up and fight anybody. I kind of laid there and went, "Oh fuck, this hurts." And some people tell me I'm a fairly tough guy. So I mean, I've had my nose bitten off. I didn't really want to fight, but I had to. I've lost parts of my fingers trying to stop knives, and it just keeps bleeding. So where the hell does John Wick come into this? Where's Jason Bourne and all this shit? So do you have some secret training facility somewhere in the United States where you turn out these superhuman people?
Superhumans, right?
No. I mean, you look at the average Navy SEAL, he'll shoot your eyeballs out at close range, but he couldn't fight his weight of a white pepper bag when it comes to punch and kick. You're probably better trained than that.
Mm.
I mean, the only difference between him and you is he's probably in a lot better physical shape and he is trained to kill. And you don't have that luxury unless you've been there. It's like, I'm an old soldier. What do you think I did in unarmed combat training? You know, I didn't practice wrestling. I close distance and kill you. I drove my fighting knife, kill you. If I couldn't do that, I'd choke the shit out of you. There was none of this crap.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah.
So, you know, but again, the combatives, martial arts, you hit it when you said martial. Okay, the concept is military, martial.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out of the military arts. Like, and I'll have young fellows who are in the martial arts side of things do. So, well, you've taken from us what you do, like modern film. I said, no, son. I teach military shit. What you're doing is a watered down version of what I teach to make it safe.
Oh.
Because you can't, I mean, I'll poke your eye out. I'll rip your balls off and technical grip.
No worries. It seems like the signal kind of dropped off or
Yeah.
something like that, maybe.
It's Canada. The mice aren't running as quick as they should up here.
It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine.
Anyway.
But please continue. You were right in the middle of it.
Where the hell
there.
was I, in a rant, or I don't know?
No, you weren't in a rant. You were just talking about the difference. We were talking about the difference between martial arts and just the combatives that, like, I guess, what is the difference between martial arts and true self-defense? And you were going on just talking about just understanding, like, the martial artists, the martial arts masters of today teach what you said, a watered down version of the stuff that you teach to make it safe. And that's about where it kind of cut out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and the other question you have to ask yourself, what is your definition of self-defense when you're talking to people? You know, I mean, I clearly have a different look on it because my careers have led me into harm's way. So, you know, as a cop, I was constantly picking up the pieces of the victims, you know, dead, you know, people have been murdered, raped, all this stuff. Then you got to deal with the guys who perpetrated these offenses. So, I mean, you know, that shapes how, one, I trained myself so I could survive those years on the street. And then when I was put into the academy and the role of training police officers, the average cop who came to the academy, you know, they had no martial arts experience, maybe one or two. Most of them majored in beer drinking and chasing the opposite sex. Some had played football, hockey, stuff like that. But there was no real self-defense skills. So we had to start to train them. And what do? They had no idea what a real street fight was because most of them never had a real street. A hockey fight is not you know, we pull the guard over, we start feeding the guy, fist it. That's not a street fight. It can be brutal, but, you know, so you have to not only just teach them how to deal with that violence, but also you have to teach them to do it in a lawful manner. So they don't end up in trouble and stuff.
Right.
And stuff like this. So that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of other stuff. And that's where martial arts used to be. It was a lot of discipline, a lot of sweat equity on basic stuff. Like I said to some lads a while ago, I think everything in martial arts, what karate, jiu-jitsu, aikido, whatever you want to call it, like hapkido, whatever, everything up to the black belt level should be dedicated to self-defense training. Forget all this other stuff. No secret bunkai, no philosophy, just train. Once you obtain your black belt, your first degree, first dan, whatever that may be in your style, then you can put in the esoterical aspects of it, the cultural aspects that you know everybody likes to have, you know, and go from there, because now you've answered for your student that one and very important question, that they can now defend themselves under high level stress of an assault. And it's not going to look pretty. It never is pretty. That should be our job. And then you can do it. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I've lived in Japan. I've studied in Japan. I lived in Korea. I've studied in Korea. I've been to China. I was doing Muay Thai in Thailand in the mid 70s before anybody even heard of it. So, you know, I have that rapport in my background, and there's a lot of it that I really, really enjoy. I mean, the question I always say to people, if you're in Japan and you go through the tea ceremony, does that make a better cup of tea than if you just go make it in your kitchen? The tea tastes the same, but you have to love the ceremony. And most people in our culture of martial arts like the ceremony more than that, the training aspects. And, you know, there's guys, like usually guys who come seek me out after a while have basically had their head handed to them. That was their wake-up call. Their whatever didn't work for them, their black belt didn't protect them, and they start to question everything they've learned, and I say, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some things you do, like a punch is a punch, a kick is a kick.
Right.
What's the setup phase to assault? What's the holding mechanism? What's the aftermath? What's the physical and psychological aspects of what you have to deal with? And you have to talk about that in our terms, not in some Asian, if you read Japanese haiku poetry, it makes no sense to you whatsoever. And I define they make up this nonsense what the poet means. It doesn't. The only person who's going to be okay, that's the dead samurai who wrote the damn thing. So our training has to answer these questions at that real level and real time. And that, for a lot of people, is hard to get past because, again, if they've never had a street fight, how you explain combat to somebody who's never been in combat? Don't stick your head up, no, son. You're going to get that round right through your freaking helmet. It's like when I was a young soldier, we had the manual. Here's the Army manual, infantry section, squad, field tactics, whatever you want to call it. And the guy teaching me had fought in World War II in Korea, and he said, nope, I'm going to teach you how to live. So, yes, there were elements of that manual still applied, but you listen to him because he had a chest full of medals. And as one of my instructors said, I killed more people than Satan. And he did. Wow. So who are you going to listen to?
That's an extreme analogy.
So as martial artists, you got, and don't get me wrong, there's some very capable martial arts guys out there, very dedicated people that are very keen on, and on what I do. They do the best job they know how. They come on course with me so they can go back and do that, stuff like that. So, it's just, but we got about 20% of guys like that. The other 80% are off in la la land. They're hiding behind secret bunkai. They're doing this or doing that. And, it's, frankly, if you're a martial arts dude and you're talking about self-defense and you don't put on a sparring gear, you don't put on helmet, you don't go in the middle of the floor and kick the shit out of each other, and you're not pressure testing your stuff, you're kidding yourself. You're not magically going to pluck a punch out of the air and do something or do this or do that. You have to know how to cross that second phase to take the guy out. And most guys don't want to cooperate with you when you do that. Right. Or they're coming across at you to ground and pound you. And if you don't know how to deal with that, where's your secret bunkai? Where's the pressure point that's going to knock them down? Where's this? Where's that? It ain't going to happen, sports fans.
So do you believe that traditional martial arts still has a place in pragmatic self-defense? Or do you think that it should all just be kind of...
It depends on the instructor.
Okay.
It depends on his focus, their background. There's a lot of stuff. I've got, I'll pick on my friends in Aikido. I got some really good mates in Aikido. They've been doing it as long as I've been doing what 60, we joke around because we're the grandfathers and all this nonsense. And they actually think they're samurai, and I call them lemon pie, white on the outside, yellow on the inside. But they can do Aikido. It's, you're watching, oh my God, this is brilliant. And I'll go out and I'll do the same thing because I've got a little experience. But they couldn't fight their way to a white paper bag because none of the stuff they're doing applies to the level of violence that's being thrust upon them. And that guy that's attacking them on the street is not setting up. He's not. It's boom. Now, there's a few of those guys that I know, they can make it work because they're hard asses. They're ex-Green Berets. They've been down the pike, but they love doing Aikido. They've got the cultural thing. Mm-hmm. They're the exception to the rule. You know what I mean? Like I taught baton training and policing, and people said, "Where'd you come up with this baton training?" Well, a lot of it comes out of Kenjutsu. It's the same idea how to do it, like things like this. So there's elements of that, but you as the instructor have to know how to take that element and make it applicable again. And what a lot of us are not doing is taking that element and making it applicable. Because if y'all look at the United States right now, the wife and I were talking about taking our kids down to Disneyland. I'm going, not without body armor.
Oh,
you guys are killing people down there like it's going out of style. And we're doing it. We just lost 10 Canadian police officers so far this year. 10. That's unheard of. So where is this going? I mean, we've had Vancouver, where we don't live in Vancouver, we're in a retirement community. Well, you got people being stabbed left, right, and center.
And what you said in Vancouver?
Oh yeah, you go to Starbucks, you might die, son. You just, and the stupid is, I mean, this whole, I don't know, man. I look at what's going down there. We look what's going up here. We have, I don't know, we shouldn't get into politics, but whatever. It's just stupid.
Right.
And so all of a sudden now you think your standard dojo training is going to do you some good when this guy's coming at you at Mach 5 with a knife and you don't know what's doing. Even if you're an Arnese kid, I've never had anybody attack me using arts, and I've done Pinjat Salat in Indonesia and stuff. It don't work that way, sports fans. And so how are you going to address that in a split second? Where's your starter response skills? Like everybody wants to do this block or this block. The only block is, holy fuck, he's coming at you with a knife. And I call it the holy fuck block. And I said, Bill, why do you call it the holy fuck block? Because when someone goes to stab you, you go, holy fuck.
Sorry. My apologies.
That's okay, man. That's supposed to be funny because I scare the shit out of people. Like Dave out of windows to get out of courses. Some guys just don't come back because it's too scary. I had a guy who was an Arnese guy. Oh, I'm a knife fighter, trained in the Philippines. So you're a knife fighter? Oh, no. You just mouthing off. It's okay. You got a knife? Goes, yeah, I'll go get it. It's real. I got mine to protect my full arts. Okay, let's fight. He's looking at me. So you seriously fucking right. Let's go. Put up or shut the fuck up. So he ran out the back door. And I would have. I did a demonstration that's on YouTube with the Mexican police. I'm down there teaching Mexican police. And, a lot of Mexican cops get killed. So we're talking about nice stuff. And the guy hands me a rubber knife and all the cops are going off. Right off the bat, you lose them. I says, who's got a knife? So the guy hands me his real knife. I says, okay, it's sharp too. Yeah, kill me. So luckily he hesitated because I punched him in the head real fast. But if he hadn't hesitated, it's going to get ugly real quick because it's a real knife. But you as an instructor, wooden knife, plastic knife, you can do any bullshit you want. But the moment it becomes real, and when the first Special Service Force, like the guys in 42, they trained with real knives. They got cut because that's what they were going to face. Now, granted, these days, I did a thing for the U.S. Army Special Force, and the base safety officer shut us down because I had metal knives that looked like they're real. They weren't sharp. They're training knives. Oh, that's too dangerous, Mr. Wolfe. And the Green Beret guys are looking at me going, oh, we're sorry, Bill, this is embarrassing. So they shut it down because it was. So I'm going, okay. So how am I supposed to take, if you can't even get past that, how do you do it? Now, you're a young fella and smarter than I am, obviously. So how do you get past it? You tell me. Because that's, the questions you're asking me, I know what it is, but how do I get young guys like yourself who are keen to take that next step? Just don't give up what you know. Just improve it. Make it work so it's applicable, and then share that back with your students. If you can teach one person to live, that's brilliant. But if you're teaching them nonsense, it's just going to get the shit kicked out of them or worse, killed. Shame on you.
Wow. So, that makes
sense. Like military and police instructors. They're fucking up. They're not doing their job. Otherwise, you wouldn't have all those cops in the United States who would be in jail right now. If their training cadre had done their damn job, they'd probably been kicked off the force. If they were properly trained, properly assessed, they wouldn't be there. That's part of your job as an instructor. You can't go halfway. Either do it right or go frickin' home. And that's where I have a problem. I go around the world following guys who teach. Never served, never been in the military, police teaching police use of force and shit like that. Where did you get this skill? How come? I'm a SWAT cop. I'm a SWAT team leader. You've never been a SWAT cop, SWAT team, and you know more about it than I do. How the hell does that happen? Now, you're going to teach me to fight, son? You'd never made an arrest.
Wow.
So you wonder why things are fucked up. And it's no different in martial arts. You got very capable people, but they're locked into a box. And if they spend much time unlocking that box, learning how to do it right, then you've got a martial arts again. You have martial arts. What does it mean? Military arts.
Right.
Take it back to the source. But then you just might make martial arts, when civilians think about martial arts, the general public, they're going to go, I need to learn that. That's an applicable skill. More people do yoga in the United States than they do martial arts. I don't give a shit what you think about yoga, but it ain't going to do you a bit. When you're doing downward dog, you're going to get a foot up your ass. But martial arts are less popular. Why? Because most people do not see them as applicable.
They see them as commercial. They see the commercial arts mostly, and they put it in that sport aspect of, oh, this is something cool that, you know, you can do after school or something like that.
Well, how many people do you know that actually want to train to be an MMA fighter? I mean, it's brutal.
It's popular though nowadays. A lot of people are
more
going
popular
to
than American martial, but how many people are actually training in what I would consider MMA? Because what I teach is MMA, military martial arts.
right.
That's the original shit. I mean, I learned how to punch, kick, bite, scratch long before MMA came along, long before UFC. You know, when I first met the Gracies in the late 70s, it was Marine Corps guys introduced me to them. They went, oh, they do this stuff called ground fighting. I went, oh, really? Okay, so he took me to the garage and we did it. And I went, this was a ground fighting. Judo, nothing new to it. And they were, well, how did you know this? It's judo, dude. Sales pitch. Okay, whatever. So yes, there's elements, but what is going on here? And you're the young people that have to tell me, because I'm in the twilight of my years of this shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at what you guys are doing, and you young people are telling me, you know, I'm crazy. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I've seen a shitload of violence, and you know, and I love to train. I'm an old man. I love to train. I'm lucky I got a much younger wife who trains harder than any three people I know. And she keeps me going. She says, I don't want no fat, lazy old bastard on the couch. Okay, so she keeps me going. But I love to get on the mats. I still try to do it. And, you know, you come in and challenge me, I'll try to round kick your head right off your shoulders. And I might still be able to do it. But, you know, I probably, you know, as I said to the wife, I probably got 10 more years of this before the body's going to be totally euchred. Because it's not the age, it's the mileage. You know, and when you train really, really hard, over a long period of time, your body takes the punishment and it comes back to haunt you. When I would turn 60, it wasn't so bad. When I hit 65, and then, you know, as I'm advanced on from that, it's, you know, but all old martial artists were that way because they trained really hard. Even the early guys in the early days of karate, not the crew, you know, and don't get me wrong, there's lads in the karate who train really, really hard. I know friends of mine, Kokushinkai, hard men.
Right.
You know, they'll get in there and they'll still go toe to toe with nothing, no protection on, kicking the shit out of each other. And I said, guys, you got to look at you're 60 years old, for God's sakes. Look at your birth certificate. But the original guys, like Masuyama and guys like this, were hard. And they trained really, really hard. And, you know, but somewhere along the line, that original crew who did this hard training and applicable training, it became, what's the word I'm looking for? They started adding to it, polluted it, whatever.
They started doing, like, you know, as in composites in there, and, you know, starting to cross train and such like that.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with cross training. You know, if you have if you were trying to maintain a pure art, obviously not. When I was a young lad, if you were in one martial arts school, you couldn't go to the other school because you would get kicked out. That was considered disrespectful. Right? Like I get Brazilian kids coming to me and they bounce around Brazilian school, because they think each school is going to teach them some secret shit. And they bounce around. I said, well, what does your instructor say? Well, and what the instructor's doing is losing the money, right? So it becomes, but they're not staying there because I guess they hit a wall. They're not learning anything. At least they don't think they're learning. And the problem is, it's not a question of learning more stuff. It's getting better at what you already know.
Right.
Honing it, polishing it. And everybody wants to know, like your Marine Corps programs, about 211 techniques. Well,
I'm not a Marine, so I wouldn't know.
There you go. But, you know, about 65 would be a good number to get good at. Or spread that over standing, ground, fighting, whatever. Because you might be able to remember 65, but you sure shit, you have a hard time remembering 211. And I'll defy you to, you know, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, and I love it. It's great stuff. It's complicated as shit. It's not an easy thing to learn. Now you're in combat and bullets are coming zip, zip, and you're going to do this and this and this and this under pressure, bombs going off and bullets whizzing by your head. Why don't you just take out your knife and kill the son of a bitch?
That's more.
But how you train is how you react.
Right.
And that's what you guys are finding after your Afghan and Iraqi reports. So.